Greetings all, BWS2K here. We are going to look at Elegy again. The beta manual for the 4th edition is out, and you can get that at the Discord for Elegy. I think I had the links in the last video. I'll try to put links in the description of this video as well. We're just going to walk through the sort of randomized creation of things, because I like to embrace the chaos of random dice, and then we'll actually take a break and then play through a scene or two as well. All right, so I have a new rig. The first time I tried to shoot this video, my entire computer locked up and I had to restart it. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad omen, but we'll see if I can get through this video, and I apologize if there's any hiccups. The other thing is, because it is a new rig, my OBS settings that I had last time, I've lost them. And so I know there's a lot of text on screen and it can be blurry. Like it gets pixelated with artifacts and things like that as I'm zooming around. So I'll try to make sure it is as readable as I can make it. You should be able to understand where it is that I'm looking so that you can look at it in your own PDF. But yeah, so I apologize up front for that. My videos aren't particularly fancy anyway to begin with. My technical skill is growing. I used to be about a 0. I'm now about a 1%. But we'll get there together. We'll get through it. It'll be all right. So this is Elegy 4th edition, the beta manual. Again, I'll put the links of where you can get that. And we're going to actually hop right on over to, I think it's Begin Your Journey. So that's like the basic stuff. And then we have the truths. And then we get to the create your character. There's the city section and then the create your character. So I have already done the city section. This is going to be based off of the city of Manchester, which is in the US, north of Boston. It's a city I am vaguely familiar with. But what I liked about it was in looking for, and sometimes most of the time I use fake locations. I thought I'd use a real location this time. And what was really nice about this one is it's actually divided into 9 regions, which is great because we have 9 spots for regions. So I chose that and then rolled up which area or which thing that region is known for. So we have some natural parks, we have some government buildings, some museums, some community centers, some more parks, some beaches, more government buildings, nightlife, and then I like Youngsville is known for crime. I love that that's an option. So I look forward to kind of delving into that. And then for the truths, I chose them ahead of time. I know a lot of people use Elegy to emulate Vampire the Masquerade, which is like a major influence on the game. And that's great. And I have dabbled with Vampire the Masquerade and World of Darkness, and I think there's some really awesome stories to be told there. That's not really what I'm going to be doing here. So I chose these. I didn't roll them or anything like that. And I'm not really into politics. So like you'll notice the factions being separated, or the vampires being separated into factions, like that's a thing, and there is a queen. Probably not really going to come up very much. I have been watching, excuse my squeaky chair here, I have been watching a lot of a lot of vampire shows and vampire movies from the 80s and 90s. Some of them were not particularly high budgets. And I found a show called Forever Night, but it's Knight, and it's at this point it's 30 years or 35 years old, and it's basically a vampire who is sort of working as a police officer, sort of the night shift, and so kind of like trying to redeem himself. And I think I mentioned it actually in my last Elegy video of like capturing that 90s aesthetic of like a really straightforward, simplistic plot. And man, it was a different time. It was a different time back then. Your plots, not to say that they weren't good or enjoyable. That's not at all the case. But in terms of like the depth of the writing and such, I am much more. Elegy for me is an opportunity to do like a serial story, like those kinds of shows, or like those kind of cheaper movies or franchises where there's like, what was the movie I watched? Warlock 1, Warlock 2, and Warlock 3, but 2 and 3 have nothing to do with the first one really or each other. So like just kind of the semi-schlocky, cheesy kind of vibes that you would get like on an afternoon home from school or something like that if you were watching TV. So anyway, so I don't plan on getting much into the politics stuff. But we do have both vampire hunters and witches, as well as werewolves and fae, which are all kind of new in this beta testing. And I put them all as uncommon, so they could pop up. That's not a problem. And then as far as the other truths, I made it vampirism is a genetic mutation. Um, and when they're turned, they get a blight, which is like their weakness or their curse or whatever. But the powers are random, so that gives us some we can still lean into the randomness, because I like the idea of being a lineage into the 5 factions, which is kind of the World of Darkness thing. But I really wanted to embrace the dice. And then the territories, yeah, you can go wherever you want as long as you're not causing a problem. So I just wanted to say we're not rolling those, we're not going through that, but that is part of the process, the city and the truths. But the things that we're going to do together here are we're going to roll up starting with right here on page 42, the her background. Step 1, her background. So it says, imagine what your character did during her mortal life, and then on the top part of your sheet, write down what was your occupation in life, what she did when she was alive, and then write down an aspect that reflects what she was most skilled at in life. It may or may not be connected to her occupation. So the way I kind of broke this down was we'll choose a name, or we'll roll a name, I should say, and we'll roll a mortal occupation. The aspect, which I really like aspects. It's very Cortex Prime. It's very much in my wheelhouse. But because we're rolling this character randomly, I'm not going to choose the aspect at the beginning. I'm going to choose it at the end to kind of pull everything together, hopefully, to pull everything together thematically, because there's another place where we do aspects down here. And again, I'm going to wait until the end. So let's roll. We're going to roll a D100 for a male or female name. So if it's even, we'll go male. If it's odd, we'll go female. And then their mortal occupation. And then we're going to check those pages. So we're going to roll 2 D100s. So that's a 65 and a 66. Okay, I'd say what are the odds, but we can always figure out the odds. They're not that difficult, right? So 65 is odd. So that is going to be on the female names list. So that's on page 92. So we're going to go all the way down to 92, and it was 65, which is Mila with 2 L's. So our name is Mila. I think we're going to keep the information over here, and then just I'll move it over when it's time to make the sheet. So the name is Mila, which I've actually had as many times as I've rolled up names. I think I've come up with Mila 2 or 3 times. And then the mortal occupation was page or number 66. So we're going to go to mortal occupation 66, a non-profit organizer. Ooh, interesting. So non-profit organizer. So that's like soup kitchen or like a race fundraiser, something like that. Okay. The aspect, excuse me, just sipping on my water here. The aspect we will leave for later. So we will jump right ahead. So we've got Mila, the nonprofit organizer, and now we're going to choose, or we're going to roll up her turning. So if we come back, we were on page 42. We are still on page 42. So your character died a few years ago. Decide who turned her and how it happened. You may use the following tables as inspiration, roll on them, which is what we're going to do, or choose, or even just create them freely. Like you can come up with your own thing, which is something that I really enjoy about Elegy. It's very upfront about use these tables or don't use these tables or be inspired by these tables. I really like that. So we're going to roll a D10 and then a D100 for who were they to us and why did they turn us. Oh, we should roll a name though too. So we're going to roll a D100 for a name, and then a D10 for why they turned us, and then a D100 for who they were to us, like their relationship to us. So we have 76, that's even. Oops, did I go past it? Male name, there we go. 76, Nathan. Okay. Oops. Still getting used to my new desk setup. I do have a new keyboard, which is nice, and I do have a new mouse, which is nice. But getting used to those new things is something that I'm still doing. Who were they to us? So we had a 10 on that. Let's come back up here. They were a relative, close or distant. Even in life, you had blood ties. They may have been a cousin, aunt, uncle, or sibling. Okay, so they were a relative. You should put blood. Oops. Blood relative to be on theme, right? And then why did they turn us? We rolled a 72. They wanted to ensure some kind of legacy and saw you as an excellent candidate, and you wanted to be more like them. Ooh, okay, so legacy and you wanted to be more like them. Okay, legacy and like, what would you say that? Ensure their legacy, and we liked them. Ensure their legacy. Interesting. Apparent age or age and then apparent age, and this would be for both of us. So I'll pop it back up here with Nathan. But and then the blight, edge, and feet. So for the age, I just put n and then n plus 1d4. So I always assume in these kinds of games that n is like 18. So we'll go 18 and then we'll roll a d4 and then maybe we'll make Nathan blood relative. I think older in order, if we're talking legacies, this person's probably near the end of their legacy, right? Like they're taking us on, they're a mentor. So like maybe we add like 20 years to our age. All right, so let's just roll a 1d4 here. 4. Okay, so then 18 plus 4, so 22, and then we'll make them like 52. Or wait, we look 18, but we actually are 22. And he said, yeah, okay, so that's fine. So we look 18, but we're actually 22. So we've been a vampire for four years. So we've known Nathan. Well, we've probably known Nathan all our life, it seems to be. But they have been tutoring us, mentoring us for 4 years. Let's do that. Let's go. Mentored as vampire for 4 years. And then our blight, edge, and feet. So this is where we get into some of the new territory with the aspects and with the edges and feet. Where's the, is there a link to it? Yeah, okay. So we did this part here. Name the vampire and then the ages. And then depending on your world building choices, vampires may develop a specific weakness called a blight. So we do, and then gain a blight edge tied to it and select one starting feat for it. So that is on page 71. So if we come, oops, I guess they're earlier. Why are they earlier? Oh, here we go. Okay, blights. So oddly enough, there's 11 of them, right? Did I remember that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh no, these are 8. The other one is 11. Okay, so there's 8 blights. So how it works is you pick, like if we have aberration, then we choose one of these boxes to fill in. These are 5 feats. Each edge, each blight edge has 5 feats under it. Some of them have prerequisites. For instance, like right down here, you can see with no reflection, in order to choose this 5th feat, you have to have 2 other dots filled in, 2 other feats filled in. So if you have 2 feats filled in for aberration, even though these are boxes, that's 2 dots for aberration. So it's like, here we go, requires 2 dots, requires 2 dots. Some of them actually require, here we go, requires the feat above. So like to unlock this dot, you can create a connection with your ghost. You have to have, you can call your ghost and ask them. So that's how it works. We'll roll a d8 and see which one we get. Oh, somebody is texting me. I'm not going to turn my phone off. I'm not a very popular person, but I will get another notification here in a second. So let me just do like that. A 7. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Untamed. We are untamed. And then we get to choose, although there's 5, we could roll. Do we want to really embrace the dice? None of these have requirements. So let's do that. Let's roll an additional d5, or I guess d10 and divide by 2. Another 7. So 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8 would be the 4th one. So right here, untamed, you have grown much closer to your primal instincts. When you roll to act with civility or etiquette, add 1 to the die roll and remove the highest. Add 1 to the die roll and remove the highest, meaning the highest rolled die, I guess. Add 1 die to the roll. So you're rolling 3 dice and you're taking the 2 lowest. Okay, all right, so that's like not a good thing. And then here our feat is following your basic instincts can be thrilling even in failure. When you roll to hunt, fight, or flee, if you get a failure and lose a mask, which is like the masquerade kind of, as a price, gain the same amount in rush. Ooh. Okay, so we kind of get a thrill out of like breaking the masquerade, so to speak, which I don't think they call it. I don't think it's called the masquerade in this, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So untamed, and we are just going to put rank number 4 there as a reminder. So we are untamed, 4th feat. Oops. Okay, let's come back. All right, here we go. Survival. Right, did we do all the things? Yeah, we did all the things there. So survival. Think about how your character has survived since her turning. And then we're going to pick 3 gifts to represent her natural powers, the things that have helped her survive and thrive. So we didn't get the Daywalker blight. If you get Daywalker, squeaky chair. If you get Daywalker as your blight, then this is a little bit different. But and also when you're writing your aspect, the point is made that you can have Arcana, which is kind of cool. I don't know if it's something that I'm particularly interested in getting into during this sort of playthrough and beta. I think that's something that if I wanted to, I would make some of this less random, just because I think it's a cool thing and I would want to like sort of reduce the randomness. But there is Arcana, so there's like rituals that you can do and stuff, which is also really cool. Just probably not something that we're going to delve too much into. Okay, so pick 3 gifts and then write an aspect. The aspect we'll do later, but we will pick the 3 gifts, or we'll roll the 3 gifts, and then it says to roll for your home. So over here, 3 natural powers or gifts. This is where the 11 comes in. So there's 11 of them. And if we go to page 58, which is where they start, 58, there we go, gifts. The gifts are control, insight, animality, decay, haunt, lightness, magnetism, mutation, resilience, shade, and veil. So I don't really care about the veil one. I could pick a different one to get rid of, but just to make it a D10. I really kind of like not resilience, lightness. Mutation is always fun. Animality, decay, haunt is really interesting. Get into some ghosty things. But so for the purposes of this playthrough, I'm just going to eliminate veil as a possibility, just to make it easy to roll a D10. We could roll. We could make it work with 11, but 10 is easier to roll than 11. So I'm going to roll a D10 for that. And actually, I should roll 3 D10s, right? For our gifts. And re-roll. You know what? If we get a double, then we'll just choose 2 feats under it. So 8, 3, and 1. So 8 is... So we have control. And we have animality. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Mutation. Okay. So control, animality, and mutation. But we also need to choose the feats. So for control, we have you can force someone to obey a single action command by meeting their gaze. You roll with mind. You can give someone a suggestion they'll believe despite their own memory or senses. And then the other ones have requirements. So force someone to obey a single action command by meeting their gaze, or give someone a suggestion they'll believe despite their own memory or senses. Maybe that one, because then we can kind of like cover up that we ever met them a little bit. This effect lasts until the scene ends, or you get a failure of the match on a roll aided by it. Maybe they'll remember if we get a failure. So maybe it's just the command. We'll just go with the simple one. So control will be 1. Animality. You can turn any animal you drain to death into a familiar, which is cool, but a little bit bookkeepy. You can communicate telepathically with the primitive mind of animals until the scene ends. You can induce intense lust, rage, or fear in a living creature until the scene ends. I think I'm actually going to go with that because you can force someone to obey a single. We might actually be able to use it to help with this. Like if our command is like to run away, we can use the animality with it. Yeah, that could be interesting. And then what was the other one? Mutation. You can acquire a physical trait of animal. Oh, wait. You can turn. Oh, okay. This is okay. So actually, if we did the thing with the familiar, we could have a familiar and then have their traits. You can meld with the earth. I'm a huge fan of that. Yeah, huge fan of that. Melding with the earth for a few hours, emerge at just the right time. I know I said I wasn't going to reference the World of Darkness, but I actually really, really dig that power. I forget what it's called in World of Darkness, but you can like sink into the earth, so you don't like need a place to sleep. You can just sleep in the dirt. So I really like that. It like really lends itself to sort of a nomadic lifestyle, and I dig it a lot. So we're gonna go with that. So that's mutation 3. And up here it's control 1 and animality 4. So control 1, animality 4, and then the mutation, what was it? Mutation 4? No, mutation 3. Again, these are mostly just notes. We'll actually like have a nice sheet next time. Or like after the break. So aspect that reflects her means of survival and death, we're going to kind of like skip that, but we will roll for a place. And I'm using 3 different oracle tables because why not? So a location, but also the quirk for that location and a secret location inside that we could sleep in, which of course we don't really need to do because we can sleep in the dirt. But that's okay because we can still have a place that we can work out of. Like we can still have like a secret base or something like that that has a front yard. I really like the idea of sleeping in the dirt. I don't know what to say. So let's roll 3 D100s. Okay, and then we're gonna hop to page 98. Wait, what was the order of it? Place, quirk, location, secret location inside. So place, quirk, 13. So haunting. Ooh. Haunting. Movie theater. And then the secret location inside is a vault. That's so cool. All right. So we have a haunting movie theater with a vault. Like a movie vault, like secret films. Or maybe it's like it's a movie theater built on top of like an old bank or like a secret. That's cool. I like that. Okay. So now we're gonna roll. Come back to here. Sorry for all the scrolling, like I said, but I like to have it all in front that we can reference. Okay, so we did step 3. So now we're going to do step 4, which is assigning attributes. And I didn't know how to do this randomly, but I realized that mind is something that we want for control. But the animality and the mutation didn't have, I don't think, oh, here's the arcanas or arcanas. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. So control, this one says roll with mind. Animality, induce intense. So that doesn't have any attribute. And then melding with the earth has us roll with body. Okay, so that one does have body. But if we have the secret movie vault to sleep in, you can acquire a physical trait of any animal you've trained to death. Claws, wall climbing, effect lasts until the scene ends, or you get a failure with the match. I don't really want to be draining animals. I really like Earth Meld. Earth Melt, that's what it's called. Earth Melt in World of Darkness. So body for that, mind for the other thing. So if I was choosing, I think I would choose mind as the one to get a +1. But we will, what we'll do is we'll roll a d4, and then that will leave us with 3 left. And then we'll roll a d6 and divide by 2, and that will tell us our highest and our lowest. So we're going to go 1d4, and then that's going to tell us which one is our highest, and then 1d6, which will divide by 2. So the first one, body. So body is our highest. It's only a +1 to the rolls. There's kind of a dice pool mechanic. So it actually, even though it is only a +1 or a -1, it doesn't seem like it makes much of a difference. There are other modifiers that you add, which I really like. But yeah. Okay, so that leaves us with mind, charm, and soul. So it'd be 1, 2, and then 3, 4. So charm is actually going to be the lowest. Which is kind of funny because we worked as a nonprofit organizer. We must have been very aggressive. And then the identity, which this is all here if you have a new name, but it's nothing to roll, and I'll fill it in later. So we'll do that section later. Oh, my mouse is giving me a blue. I don't know why. I don't know why it was blue. So we're going to move right on to the connections piece. So we need 2 characters. So we'll need 2 names, and then one of them gets an expertise, and one of them is our affection right here. So one with your progenitor. I guess we don't need a name for that because that's just Nathan, right? And then the other one is the expertise. So I think we'll roll for another name. We'll go, did we go odds evens last time? Yeah, let's just do odds evens again. So if it's odd, it will be a female. It's even, so it is another male. So 16, let's come over to the oracles. So that's females, males. Antonio. All right, so then we have to go Nathan, Antonio. So the question is, which one? Well, it does seem like we liked Nathan, right? So that would be our affection one. He's kind of our mentor. And so Antonio would be the expertise, which we have to roll a 1d100 for. And we'll see how this probably relates to the nonprofit stuff. But let's see. Page 56. I think I must have wrote the wrong. Oh, 96. Okay. And what did I roll? A 56 for mortal occupation. Oh, no, connection expertise. 56 is negotiation. Yeah, I hope so, because charm is our lowest attribute. All right, so we have Nathan, who is our affectionate person, which I don't think it has to be like romantic. One of your progenitor, consider their prime of the relationship. If it's emotional, give it the title of affection. If it's more professional, give them expertise. And then one with another character who plays the opposite of that. So that's like the professional, yeah. And we'll have to think on whether we want Antonio to be a vampire or not. Probably not, right? Just to make things more interesting. Rank both according to their nature. So we've said that Nathan is, oh, I didn't put the page number. I'll have to scroll up here. How to play? Where's the ranks? I've already scrolled past. Here we go, ranks. Where's the page? Here we go. Connection. Here we go. Ranks. I think exceptional power, adult vampire. Yeah. So I think Nathan is a rank 3. And I think skilled mortal. So Nathan will be rank 3. But Antonio will be rank 2. That's that. Finishing touches. Actually, I could probably just do this. Which is just paperwork. And then our first mission. So we are going to roll our first mission, but I'm not going to settle on it necessarily until we get into the scene. So we have an action oracle, a theme oracle, a character goal oracle, a rumors oracle, and then we're going to set the scene. So I'm going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 D4s. D100s, sorry. Okay, so, and I'm actually going to pull up a notepad here to keep track of everything. So our, oh, actually I can do it like this. I can do 97 for the action, because they're all going to be action, right? Yeah. So action and theme are 97, 76. So transform, which is actually what I got last time, and theme, right? So transform regret. Great. Let's write it in. Transform regret. Maybe we'll put commas. Transform regret. Character goal is 69. Character goal is 69. Rebel against power. Oops. And then the rumors oracle is a 12 and an 18. Where is rumors oracle? 12 and here we go. 12 and 18. Well-known or infamous mortal is manipulating someone. Well-known or infamous mortal is manipulating someone. All right. And so if you think about it in terms of a serial, like a show, like a television show, this would be the pilot. So the pilots are oftentimes 2 episodes or like a double length. So this can be a rank 2. But moving forward, my vision for Elegy is that each night I would have a new mission, and that would kind of like be the focus of that episode. So the idea would be to complete a mission or not each episode, which would be each night. And one thing that I had mentioned in the past is having a schedule. I'd really like a schedule. But interestingly, with this version, one thing you may notice if we go to the beginning and look here, you will notice that you do not see the word beat. There are no beats. Beats have been removed. And that is, we're going to cover the sort of the new roles and the mechanics when we actually start to play through the scene, when we can actually do examples of them. So I'm not going to get too far into it, but there is something about feeding, and there are a couple things that there's like some sample. There it is, the action roll, and then where are the samples? There's like samples of, there we go, sample actions. So these are some examples, but they're really just inspiration. The whole thing has a very different vibe to it, which I really like for the most part. I think it's a good move, and I'm curious to see where it takes us. But that sort of concludes this first part. So I'll bring it to a close, and the next time we talk, we will have a nice character sheet all filled out, and we will have a more cohesive goal, and we'll get into quick explanation of mechanics, and then we'll get through our mission. We'll try to figure out transform regret. So this is like forgiveness, right? If you are regretting something and you want to change that regret, that feels like you would, or maybe you're changing the past, changing something, making up for the past. Did you do something that you regret and now you're hoping to change that? Maybe if this is like a pilot episode, you got to think about that. We got to strike a tone, something that's going to be with us like for a while, like for like the first season, right? So maybe the regret, maybe Mila doesn't like being a vampire. Maybe she's like having second thoughts. What was our blight again? Did we have a blight? Oh, we didn't do our aspects. Yeah, we'll do aspect. I'll do aspects for the when we do our next section. The blight was untamed. Oh, right. Untamed doesn't like the likes flirting with them. So maybe maybe that's our hook. Where are the blights? Did I roll past them? Gifts. Aspects. So it's in here somewhere. Bonds, impacts, blights. Untamed. Following your basic instincts can be thrilling even in failure. When you roll to hunt, fight, or flee, if you get a failure and lose mask as a price, gain the same amount in rush. So I think that is our hook. I think Mila pushes the boundaries, and now, like in this episode, gets caught, right? And has to like make up for that. So maybe, we've got vampire hunters, we've got werewolves. So maybe the vampire hunters caught on to her. I don't know if I want the werewolves to be antagonistic to the vampires, but maybe there is a particular werewolf that she's been a little too aggressive with or something. So I think that's going to be the key. We'll circle, or not circle, but what's the word? Center the story on this idea that she's sort of broken the quote unquote masquerade, and rebel against power. And maybe the rebel against power character goal, maybe that's just typical of her. Maybe she's like not wanting to, she has the nonprofit. Maybe she uses her power. Does she use her powers to help people, like linked to the nonprofit? That could be interesting. Like sort of almost openly, and like that's causing tension. Well-known or infamous mortal is manipulating someone. Maybe the someone is her. I don't know. We'll think about it. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for tuning into this piece, and we will see you momentarily. All right, we're back. You can see we filled in the sheets quite a bit. Had to invent some things, and I put the standard action roll process right down there. I wanted to point out first and foremost that when we create the aspects, which are like little sayings, we also choose a feat from an appropriate aspect. So like the aspects for Troubled Youth, I went with larceny, the second feat in larceny. So if you go to edges, It talks a little bit about aspects right here. And then let's see here. We go to their gifts. Aspects, feats per theme. Okay. So I chose Troubled Youth as my background aspect, kind of like, our girl Mia, she dropped out of school. She's a bit of a rebel, passed around in like foster care and stuff like that, sort of leaning into that stereotype. So I actually chose larceny. I chose the when you add or when you roll to pick a pocket or perform sleight of hand, add +1. So I figures like, shoplifting and maybe picking a few pockets here and there. So even though, excuse me, even though she's not like a full-time criminal, as larceny might suggest, she still has access to that because it's sort of thematic. And then the other one that I chose, so that was like her background aspect, and then her aspect for, I think it's called survival or something. It's kind of like what describes her in her unlife as a vampire. I went power for the powerless, kind of this idea of like speaking up and protecting the people who she would have called friends or at least comrades, others. And we talked last time, I think, about like having a like a soup kitchen, community food pantry kind of thing, that kind of connects. Maybe we didn't mention that. I may not have mentioned that. That may have been part of the creative process that happened off screen. But at any rate, kind of having that sort of underground network and connections of people who were of like phases of life. And so power for the powerless, now that she is this vampire who has these powers. I gave her investigation 2, which is when you look for clues by looking around or doing research, add +1. Again, she's not like a criminal investigator. It just means that in the 4 years of being a vampire, she's learned to pick up on things and maybe has kind of helped folks out in ways that maybe somebody who wasn't a vampire would not have been able to. We did, let's see, I gave her the last name, which is Danish. Mia is Danish, or can be a Danish name, so I just leaned into it. And the last name, which I will attempt to pronounce this once, Mercaro. No, I'm butchering it, but it's how you say dark red. And so I had the person who turned to her progenitor was Nathaniel. I think we rolled it as Nathan. I just put Nathaniel because it sounds like an old man name. Apologies and mad respect to all the Nathaniels out there. And made him an adult vampire, so 50 years of vampire, and assigned him the rank of 1, or I guess that's a rank of 2. And 3, and this is the rank of 2. I mess it up all the time. Here it is down here. Yeah, he's a rank of 3, and Antonio. And again, sometimes I just think too much, and I was like, well, how do you say dark red in Spanish? And it's rojo oscuro. Again, I'm butchering that, and I apologize. So I just combined that. So we have Antonio Rojoscuro. Why not, right? And he, of course, had the expertise in negotiation. And then I wrote all of our edges. So we had the animality, animality. You can induce intense lust, rage, or fear in a living creature until the scene ends, but it costs a blood, lose 1 blood. Which I do like that those costs are added into the things, because I remember in the previous version it was like whenever you use a power, spend 1 blood. There's like little things like that which I think are just part of the playtesting, part of the being a beta playtest, but just kind of like tightening up and actually putting the things in the description. So it's not like this costs 2 blood to use. And so similarly, this mutation, you can meld with the earth for a few hours, emerging at just the right time. Roll with body. On a failure, you may spend 1 blood to reroll any dice. So I would infer that this does not cost any blood to actually do, unless you want to reroll, like on a failure. And then the Untamed, which is her blight, is this idea that she is gets a rush out of like skirting with the facade, the masquerade, which I think fits. And I think it's kind of cool too, because the people that she's probably interacting with the most would kind of probably keep her secret even if they knew, because she's been helping them out, right? So yeah, I rated the things, set up the things, gave her a Walkman with lots of cassettes and some roller. I found a picture on iStock, which is a site that I like to use. I know it's small, you can't see that attribution there, but I like to go there, get real people real pictures. What else? I set up, so our what we rolled for the mission was transform, regret, rebel against power, and then well-known or infamous mortal is manipulating someone. And my takeaway from that was, since we kind of have this location of the food pantry or the soup kitchen, stopping the mayor, who I think, again, I don't remember if this is part of the creative process or not, but the mayor who actually is kind of like maybe possibly a more of a bad guy than he seems to be. But that felt like that would be, if I'm thinking about this as a pilot episode, it feels like we wouldn't actually defeat the mayor. But maybe the big reveal is that at the end of this sort of quote unquote episode, we would learn that the mayor is actually, a witch or a werewolf or has fae connections or something like that. So that I kind of moved as like, that's not what we're looking to accomplish in this session, in this episode. But to kind of refocus a bit, the objective for this session will be to push back against ruffians who are harassing patrons of the kitchen, who ultimately we would find out are connected to the mayor in some way, right? Like he's trying to drive people out, discourage people, and then he can come in and kind of bulldoze or do whatever. Again, it's kind of a paper thin plot, but that's okay. And then I put the note that where the NPCs are. So this is kind of the list of things to walk through. And I have said this before, I've been very open about this. If I overthink things, then I end up in sort of a reverse analysis paralysis where it's just like I keep writing and writing and I never get to any dice. So I'm just going to play it fast and loose, and with really leaning into that one line in the book that talks about you don't need to write more than you want to. And we're just going to kind of go and invent. And of course, again, this is kind of showing off, playing around with some of the new rules, showing off the system, and not necessarily like really planning any long-term stuff. So I made sort of a list of things that I want to do and not to forget. So obviously when we wake up, that costs a blood point, period. I want to hunt, and I'm going to use the standard action roll for the hunting, but then the actual feeding has a sort of a specific role to it. Investigating the mayor, connecting with this sort of stuff. And I did want to make sure to use connections. I really like this. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit. This is kind of the long form of the standard action roll being all of these different pieces. But if we come over here, you can see you add in, so it's the 2d10 rather, and then one of your attributes. And then there's all these possibilities of adding modifiers to your roll. So, 15 becomes much more reachable. 10 or 14 becomes like that's going to probably be your average, because even if you only roll 2 5s, which if you roll 2 5s, that's a match, and that's something special. But even if you only rolled 2 5s, but you have, you have the, I think the book says the maximum is a +5 that you can get out of adding all of these things. So if you're playing to your strengths, then you're more likely to succeed, which I just like. All right, come back up here. I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to talk about. Connections, locations. So let's get into it. So we'll describe the scene a little bit, and we're just going to kind of fast forward to this idea of these ruffians. So I think Mila sort of wakes up. So let's bring down, where's the blood? We'll bring down the blood because we're going to wake up. And then we need to feed, right? So we're going to hunt. And I think the way that she would do it, sort of leaning into her strengths, she has that control, right? She can force someone to obey a single command by meeting their gaze. But I also like the idea that maybe she like uses animality with that, which is lust, rage, or fear. So I think she would actually like lure somebody into a fight, which really plays off of this idea of like skirting the idea of the masquerade. And maybe we'll have it tie even to like these people who are pushing the thugs kind of showing up at night. So maybe she's like, maybe she wakes up from her movie theater, the secret vault in the hunting movie theater. It's like a decrepit, broken down movie theater over in Rimmon Heights, and she's like on the prowl, and of course checking on her crew over at the kitchen. Of course, it's nighttime, but I like to think there's like a back door, and they still run sort of 24/7. For people who show up at the back, kind of like cold food, sandwiches or something like that. And so she goes to check in over there, and she sees maybe somebody's having a problem, and she sees some kind of like, you know, the thugs, right? And one of them maybe is standing by the car, like, you know, a distance away, down the street, or down the block or whatever. And so I think Mila would show up and kind of like get into his sight and sort of antagonize him a bit, and maybe make fun. What could he be doing that she would like really get under his skin? Um, maybe he has like a haircut or a jacket. Maybe it's something physical that she can kind of be like, hey, nice haircut. Or maybe he's been bandaged. Maybe he has like a wound. Maybe he's in a cast. Maybe that's why he had to stay back at the car, because he's not really up. Maybe he's got like his arm is in a cast, and she says something sort of like antagonistic, like picking on too many, you know, people, or makes some comment about the weakling, right? Him being a weakling, and he like gets upset. And so I think what we'll do is we'll use the animality, and this is, you've grown much closer to your primal instincts when you roll to act with civility or etiquette, which we're not doing. Follow your basic instincts can be a thrilling even in failure. When you roll to hunt, fight, or flee, if you get a failure and lose mask as a price, gain the same amount in rest. So we're not doing the etiquette thing. We're definitely not acting with civility or etiquette. We're intentionally trying to lure him into rage to instigate a fight. But if we end up during the fight getting a failure, we can lose mask. So let's bear that in mind. So we're gonna induce rage into this person, and we're just gonna spend a blood, and this person is gonna like get upset at us. And the hunting roll that we will do for this, do we even need to do a hunting roll? Yeah, let's do a hunting roll. Come down here. So we're gonna do a roll for hunting. So 2d10. And then body, mind, charm, or soul. I think this feels like body, since she's like getting into a fight. It's not really charm. So we'll add one for that. And then consider any feat that applies. So we are considering a feat that applies, which is the animality. We're using that. Control, not so much. Investigation, larceny, the mutation, not so much. The untamed, like, we know we're paying attention to that. So we have one dot in that animality. So add your dots on related aspects, bonds, gifts or arcana, impacts, or blight. So we're going to add one for using animality, and we're also going to use one for troubled youth. I don't think power, or yeah, I don't think the other aspect really comes into play. Power for the powerless. I don't think she's doing that. And then connections, we're not really going with any connections. I guess you could make an argument, like you could probably have worked Antonio in somehow, but we're not going to do that. So we've got 2d10, but we've got +3, and this person is sort of enraged and sort of like getting upset, right? And I think the goal here is not to fight this person as much as to draw them in close, and then she's just going to like overpower. All right, so I did not roll correctly. Oh, I did roll correctly. Okay, so we have 11. So 11 is a flat success. You've made progress, but you aren't in control. Take the benefits of a stylish success, which is you've succeeded and are in control of the situation. Gain a rush for any helpful feat, which we did have one helpful feat. And then if overcoming an obstacle, gaining, attacking in combat, mark progress, preparing an advantage, overcoming. So I think we've succeeded in sort of like grasping this person, but we need to pay the price. So we're going to go just gain a rush. And then pay the price. Now, the untamed thing, if you get a failure and lose mask, we didn't get a failure and lose mask as a price. So we're not going to do that, but we can pay the price. So if we come up here and we go to, I think it's under how to play, paying the price. So when prompted to pay the price, envision what complication your action creates, then pick an appropriate price from the table below. So we have options, and I'm just going to roll the D100. A 1. Okay. A trusted individual or group acts against you. Lose, run, rush. So maybe we're seen by some of the patrons of the guest who recognize us, and they're like, "Oh man, Mila's picking on somebody who can't. She's causing trouble. She's causing trouble, right? Lose a little bit of street cred, so to speak." So that's sort of, I'm gonna have that as be kind of like the hunt. But now we get to the feed. So she's got the person, and I don't think she's being witnessed feeding, but the confrontation was kind of witnessed, and maybe the guy, kind of came forward, and lunged or something, and they're kind of like in the shadows or whatever, and so maybe it's observed but like sort of disregarded as, oh, that's just Mila being who she is. Okay, so to restore your blood, we're looking specifically at feeding, so this is going to be different than the standard action roll a little bit. By the way, I do like the costs being listed out like this. To restore your blood, you must feed from prey you meet, hunt, or subdue, which we've subdued. Roll with soul to stop at the right time. If you're in the company of an affection-based connection, which we're not, that would be Nathaniel. If they're represented by a bondage, that's also not there. So we're going to roll, and we're going to roll with soul to stop at the appropriate time. And our soul is a +0. So it's just 2d10, really. This is specifically when feeding. So we've already subdued this person with the other roll. So we're going to roll 2d10, and this is to see if we stop at the right time. So we have an 11, which is a success, flat success, but we're going to gain 3 blood. If we're starving, we can erase the condition. If it's an animal, we gain less. If this is somebody we've already fed upon, then they're weak, but that doesn't matter. So we're going to gain 3 blood, but we also lose 1 rush because it's a flat success, right? 11 is less than 15, right? Flat success. So we lose a rush, but we gain 3 blood, which brings us back up to 5. So we woke up, we hunted, we fed, and what does it say when you also lose 1 rush? Okay. So I guess it's just what would be the narrative implications of losing a rush when we're feeding by having soul? Maybe it's just that we indulge. I mean, certainly we didn't need 3, we only needed 2. So maybe it was just some overindulging. Probably this person is already weak anyway, from having been injured. But so we do that, and they're kind of like, laying in the shadows, maybe like on the other side of the car or something, not super far away or anything. But now we have the rest of the team that's going up against the patrons, like maybe starting to go forward and harass, down the road at the, like maybe towards the back door, like where I imagine there's a light and there's like maybe a crowd gathered, and these guys are kind of showing up and causing problems. So I think she's going to show up and try to diffuse the situation, though I suspect that it will not go very well. But I want to use the fight rules, so and get some NPCs. So the NPCs, if we go to the book again, are all the way on. If we go to other characters, they have a nice setup here where it just tells you, the ranks, but then it gives sample NPCs. So I figure these are not common people. These are kind of like the thugs, which would be a rank 2, and the challenge itself is rank 2. So I'm just going to kind of include, even though there's more than one, there's probably a leader, and that's kind of the one to take out. So I think Mila's going to show up, and how does she want to handle this? We could do the animality thing again. Probably that's not like Breaking of the Masquerade so much, because she's known to be a troublemaker and, gets under people's skin. The control could be interesting. Maybe that's what she does. Maybe we'll use both of those and have it be that she's like, what do you want to do? Fight me? With like emphasis on fight, and then they like get upset. Yeah, let's do that. So like she shows up, and maybe the thugs are causing a problem, and she just shows up and like gets right up in the face of the lead thug and says something like, what are you trying to do? Pick a fight? And, it hasn't really been that physical, but they've just kind of been heckling and maybe throwing things, cigarette butts and things like that. And she just like breaks, just walked right, plain view right into this person's personal space and gets all up in their face and just kind of like pushes them a little bit. Like, what do you want to do? Fight? So we'll lose a blood to cause them to be in a rage again. And then we'll do control to force them to obey a single action by meeting their gaze with mind. So we'll roll with mind, which is a 0. But I'm going to give a +1 from the rage because I think that's going to help with that roll. So I'm going to go roll 2d10. I'm going to give a +1 just purely because of the fact that we're spending the blood to do this. So I think their willingness to obey is going to be a little bit more. And this will be to see if this works. That is a 6. It doesn't work. So we'll spend 1 blood to re-roll any dice. So we'll spend 1 blood and we'll just re-roll both dice. We'll keep the +1s. It doesn't matter. There we go. That's a success. So that is just a flat success. And if we come over here, you've made progress but aren't in control. Take the benefits of a stylish success, which is we gain. Actually, it would be 2 rushes, right? Because we used 2 different feats kind of in together. So we're going to gain 2 rush, but then we have to pay the price. Oh, we could have failed and done the mask thing. That's okay. That's fine. So we gain 2 rush, and then we have to pay the price. So we'll come back over here. What page does pay the price on? I should make a note of that. It's on 13. Okay, 13. Unlucky number. So we're going to pay the price. 17. A connection or companion is in harm's way. Lose pulse or the appropriate meter. I don't know what that means. A connection or companion is in harm's way. So that's obviously Antonio, right? Lose pulse. I don't think we have pulse. That's like if you've bloodied them, I think, right? Or the appropriate meter. Let's see. Suffering. Oh, are these the meters? Yeah. You raise the respective meter in accordance with the nature of the situation. Full. Push through the hardship. All right, so we're gonna so one of our meters is gonna go up. So I guess actually health, clarity, and mask are all at 0. Or these meters. Health, yeah, that's probably what they are. Right? What does it say? Lose rush, lose health if enduring physical harm. So we do lose the meters. So they should be at 5. When you lose something, you raise the respective meter in accordance to the nature of the situation. If already full, so they become, like for instance, in shock. Is that what that means? When you lose something, you raise the respective meter in accordance to the nature of the situation. If already full, roll to push through the hardship. On a failure, the exception is conscience. How long conditions last may vary. Someone is asking you to leave. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what I should be doing. The lower your clarity is, the closer you are to losing touch with reality. Okay. 0 clarity. Pick one of these options. When you lose clarity, if you're not in shock, spend 1 rush and lose 1 less clarity. Oops. And what did the lose pulse or the appropriate meter? I wonder if they meant the meter for the person? But our connection is down already. All right, so we have to make a GM call here. I feel like we should be losing something here. And I think since clarity is, how was it described? Mental balance, focus, and sanity. I think focus, maybe Antonio being pushed around is causing her to lose focus. So maybe like Antonio like comes out to try to stop the situation, and despite the fact that it was a success in terms of pushing this person to fight, now Antonio is out and getting heckled, and that's sort of distracting Mila. She's kind of off her game. So I'm gonna mark progress like it was a fight. So that's 2. All right, because made progress. Yeah, if you're attacking in combat, mark progress. So we're kind of like in combat now. We're fighting. So then now that we're in a full fight, is there anything here that we want to use that will help us in an actual fight? I don't think so. So it's just going to be body. I think we'll go with troubled youth, and I think we'll use power for the powerless. You can use both aspects. So we'll build our pool with 2d10. Oops. And we'll add 1 for each aspect, and then 1 for body. And combat is on page 31. Is there anything special? We can do simple combat, which I like as kind of like you handle it all in one roll. And the extended combat is a little bit more back and forth. Yeah, let's try the extended combat. Okay, so each adversary has a rank. Yep. When all boxes are filled, they're defeated. When you abandon or lose, when attacking in close quarters or distance, roll with body. Mark progress as above. Okay, all right. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna kind of like, this is escalated, and I think probably the fact that Antonio got involved has like escalated things as well, right? So she's rolling. She's got her +1 from body, and the +2 for each of the aspects, I think, helps her out here. We have a 13, so 16. So 16 is a stylish success. I think that's 2 progresses, right? Attacking in combat, we mark 2 progress, and we gain a rush. So we'll gain a rush, and then we will mark 2 progress. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Was there anything special here? Stylish success, mark progress. This is if using weapons or your fangs mark twice. So maybe that's a little bit of a something that... Oh, it just says mark progress. Okay. All right. I take it back. We just mark 1 progress because we're not using our fangs or weapons. We'll do the same thing again, and then maybe we'll switch it up. Another 16. So we succeed, but we don't want to keep rolling the same thing over and over again. So like, what's going to change about the circumstances? Let's do an oracle roll. I never use oracles on these things. That's paying the price. Ask the oracle. So let's say, let's ask if Antonio is okay, or if they're like, if somebody's going to try to like hold him, like not hostage exactly, but like push him up against the wall and be like, hey, knock it off, or this one gets it. And we'll say that's a 50-50. So we'll roll a D100 and it's 50 or less. The answer is yes. So the answer is no. So Antonio is not in trouble. Let's check the oracles over here and see if there's anything interesting. Ask a question about the world around you, pick an appropriate random table to answer, and then roll and see. Maybe we could do the discovered characteristic to learn something about the lead thug. Yeah. Oh, combat action. That's what we want. Let's do a D100 for a combat action. So A 9 is corner, trap, or entangle. Oh, okay. So maybe maybe they are maybe not necessarily Antonio specifically, but like some of the other guests are maybe more of the people show up. Like another car pulls up or a van, and more of them show up now that it's becoming a whole thing, which kind of leads to the fact that it was a setup from the start, right? And they start to kind of like encroach upon the group. Yeah. All right. So maybe Mila gets to do another attack action, combat action, but how do we want to do it differently? Hmm. Hmm. Maybe maybe it's about fear now. Really push the edge. No, you know what? Let's not do that yet. Let's do that if we fail and like really make a scene out of it. Yeah. Okay. So let's do the rolling of 2d10s and body, and then I still think the two aspects still come into play. So this is a roll like we were doing before, but kind of hoping for a failure. That is not a failure. That is just a flat success though, so we have to pay the price. So we mark progress. We're not using weapons or anything, so we're just going to mark progress once. And then we pay the price, right? Oh, and we gain a rush. I like this where I'm gaining rush more. It makes it more useful. Because what you do is like if for some reason I didn't like the 4, I could have reset my rush and made that die into a 4. Like so now as it is, if I have a die that is I think it's 5 or less, I can replace it with a 5. I guess it would be less than 5. Why would I replace a 5 with a 5? So I can replace it any die with a 5 and then reset my rush, which resets to its base of 2, and that can be affected by things. I like that it's flowing more up and down throughout the combat. It's more dynamic. I like that. So she succeeds, and we have a success, but we have to pay the price. So let's come on back to page 13. A 61. You are delayed or disadvantaged. Lose 1 rush. Yeah. So I think the fact that we're disadvantaged now, we're outnumbered. So let's actually roll to fulfill the mission, which will be to just like wrap up this combat. I think because combat is on 31, you can roll to end it early. Oh no, it just says when all boxes are filled, your enemy is defeated. Okay, my bad. So we can't call it early. So we have to defeat them. Otherwise, we abandon the fight. So we roll again. Things are happening. Being at a disadvantage, I think, is the fact that there's so many of them showing up. But if we can beat this one up, maybe we can convince them. I think a failure is going to be a very bad thing. And I'm really hoping for a failure, to be honest. All right, so we're rolling. We're getting the 2 from the aspects, the 1 from the body. There we go. There we go. There's an 8. Okay, so 8 is a failure, right? Yeah, failure. You failed or encounter a costly turn of events, pay the price. So failure is your enemy hits you or something else happens before you can land your hit, pay the price. So before we roll there, let's take a peek here. Follow your basic instincts can be thrilling even in failure. When you roll to fight, which is what we did, if you get a failure, we did, and lose mask as a price. So we're just gonna, so one of the things you can do is pay the price, is roll on that chart, but you can also just do the next best thing. So we're gonna lose mask as a price, like that. We're gonna gain a rush for that. But then we should see, I don't think you lose rush just for failing that. Let's take a quick peek. Pay the price, envision, roll a prompt. Yeah, okay. So, and it says you can pick whatever is appropriate. So you can just make it be whatever. So I'm actually gonna have her, so she's gonna like maybe like growl, like feeling overwhelmed and cornered by the arrival of more people, maybe she sort of steps back and do you think she bares her fangs? Ooh, that could be fun. Kind of like threatening, like being like a cornered animal. Yeah, I like that. So we're going to, so we lost a little bit of mask there, which is kind of cool. But we're going to go ahead and now we're going to try to scare them away. So we're going to spend a blood to induce fear in this purportedly, again, the leader, right? But who sees clearly that she has fangs, and maybe tell them to I don't know, a single action command by meeting their gaze. I don't know that. Maybe she says something like, but it's like growled, like run away or flee or get out of here. What would she say? What's like a menacing thing? Like run away dinner or something like that. Like makes a food joke. Yeah. So let's actually do that. So roll with mind, and I think we'll add in well, it just says roll with mind. So it's not a standard action roll. So 2d10s and mind is a 0. So this will be to get them to run away, or at least that main guy. A 13, a success. So we didn't fail, so we don't have to spend blood. And that is just a flat success. You've made progress, take the benefits of a stylish success, then pay the price. So I think the pay the price there is we're going to go down on the mask again. And honestly, I don't know, since it wasn't a standard action roll, I don't know if you have to abide by those rules. Like if you have to pay the price, if that would be included in here. That's a good question. Something to think about. But it does feel thematically appropriate to lose mask, so we're going to go with that. And I'm going to say that also progresses and beats them up. And in this case, we've pushed back against ruffians who are harassing patrons of the kitchen. We've convinced them to run away. So the main guy is like sort of instantly freaked out by this and whoa, and sort of backs off and let's get out of here, and sort of runs, and the rest of the crew sort of beats it, following him. But of course, there were witnesses. And Antonio, of course, is there as well, right? And so there may be, consequences of that down the road. But so we fulfilled a mission in that we beat them up, even though, all right, so we're kind of bending the rules here a little bit for the sake of brevity. This would have been just combat, which you don't get XP for. But for the purposes of this playthrough, we will say that this was also a mission that we fulfilled. So if I do this, right, and then we go to fulfill mission, which is on page 27. This is why I was saying earlier, you can end a mission early. When you reach your objective and conclude your mission, roll with the number of boxes filled in your progress track for this mission. So if you got to like 8 boxes or 9 boxes and you wanted to call it, you could be like, okay, I think this mission is over. You don't have to fill all of the boxes, which is actually really nice, because depending on the rank of the mission, it may take you a long time just to fill up even a box, right? If it's a rank 5 mission, that's going to be a lot, because that's what 1, 2, so 1, 2 marks for each box, right? Or really 3, I guess. So it would be 30 marks, 30 steps along it, right? Am I saying that right? So 1, 2, that would be 2 marks per box, and this is just 1 mark per box. Yeah, and that's 3 marks per box. So yeah, it would be 30, essentially 30 ticks, 30 marks that you have to make, which could take a while. So anyway, so we are going to say that we fulfilled this mission. So when you reach your objective and conclude your mission, roll with the number of boxes filled in your progress track for this mission. Ignore any other bonuses. So we're going to roll a 2d10, and then we fulfill the mission, or we get a flat success or whatever. So let's do 2d10 plus 10, which again, obviously it behooves us to have as many boxes ticked, right? Because we get a 10 here, but if for whatever reason we were calling it early, we wouldn't be getting a full 10. So, and there's no other bonuses that go into this. So we get a stylish success, 18, right? The mission is fulfilled. You and any allies who also committed to the mission gain experience. Trace your reward on the most appropriate track. If this mission pertained to a supernatural being or a mortal or yourself, I think probably mortal, because we were looking out for our friends. Trace the reward in your humanity experience track. So do they do that up here? Humanity. It's down here. Experience. Here we go. Humanity reflects your effort to uphold mortal values and the ties that bind you to the living. You trace your humanity track as you nurture meaningful relationships with friends or mortals, and when you fulfill missions in their service. So this was a rank 2, so we would fill 2 sides of our humanity diamond. Let's see if we can do this right. I never get this tool right. A pen or a line. So we can go like that. There we go. So we filled 2. If we did it again, we would complete a diamond, and a completed diamond gives an XP. Let's see. So we earned half an XP essentially. We didn't really use connections, though we did involve Antonio, but using the connections would just be, he would just be another modifier. Like if we tried to negotiate there at the end instead, right? If he was helping us in some way, like, hey, you guys need to leave, then we could have added him to the roll to make them run away. It would just spend a +1. And then there is the stuff about bloodying them and sealing them. I'm not covering that right now. That's a bit much. But we did fight. We did fulfill a mission. We didn't really investigate the mayor. I was going to have like a clue roll and stuff like that, but that was kind of fun. A little beat up prologue, so to speak. We woke up. We did. Yeah. So I think we did all of that. So I think you get the idea. I really do, in a general sense, like this idea of building and adding towards the pool, because in the previous iteration, it really felt like the +1 or -1 didn't from your attributes didn't really sway things much, and there wasn't really a way. You couldn't have like a +3 body until maybe you can increase them. I don't even know if you can increase them with experience. I haven't even read that part. Let's see, what can you do with experience? Because I know there's some cool things. Gaining XP, loose ends, spending XP. You may spend 1 XP to upgrade an existing edge, which would allow you to get a new feat in that edge. And then it gives you the rules for that. To acquire a new edge, you must meet its requirements. When you spend XP, you fill in its diamond. There's got to be something. I thought there was something about when you fill up the humanity. Oh, I think it's an edge. Yeah. Gifts, aspect themes, acquired aspects. So each of the following feats can only be acquired once, even if you have multiple aspects tied to the same renown track. So humanity, the aspect you acquire after tracing your entire humanity track, must represent old or new skills that show a deeper connection to human life. So when you filled up all of these 5 diamonds, in addition to the regular XP thing, then you get to choose one of these, which is when you roll by exploiting a vampire's weakness, add +1. When you roll to protect a mortal from supernatural harm, that's probably one we'd go for, right? Passing as a mortal, learning a lesson. Ooh, write it down in a short sentence. And when you roll to act according to, it's almost like another aspect. And then when you're starving among mortals, add +1 to every roll you make to act with composure and self-control. Okay, that's nice. So that's some kind of cool stuff. And then I think it's listed in the other spot, but I think essentially what you do is each of the following feats can only be required once, even if you have multiple aspects tied to the same experience track. Multiple aspects tied to the same experience track. So I don't know if that means you essentially erase all 5 diamonds and start again, or if you just stick with one of these. I feel like you'd erase it and then start again, and when you fill up 5 more, you have to pick one of the other 4, right? Like if we picked passing as immortal as add +1, we don't get to do that one again to have it +2. They don't stack. I think that's what's being said there. Okay, cool. So yeah, I do like it. I think it's me personally being a little foggy about how some of these meters work and the conditions. Maybe I'll do a video later on if I get a better understanding of that long term. And I imagine, like, you can really see where this is a game that's meant to be invested in. to help guide you through things a little bit more. And we didn't really have a lot of background on the character. It was mostly just to kind of play test and see how things go. But otherwise, I do like having progress ranks listed on the sheet, and I feel like the previous version also had the thresholds for success. But I guess it's not that hard to remember 9 and 15 as being the thresholds. Absolutely love adding these things to make the standard action roll, because it definitely feels more, there's more gravity, there's more swinginess, so to speak. And I really like adding in the werewolves, the witches, the fae. Even though we didn't really get a chance to see those, I know those are things that people like, and they definitely are on theme. So I really appreciated those. Things that I would look for in the future, or things that I would be interested in the future. I feel like more truths is always going to be cool, but there is definitely a point where there's like a diminishing return, right? Like at some point you have to go, yeah, if that's what you want in your world, just say that. So I'm not sure that I want a whole lot more going on here. I can't think back to 3.5 right now to remember what it was that was here that was missing. I'm such a huge fan of random rolls and random tables. I like the progress tracks. I think that's solid. I think in general there's just like a tightening up that exists. Like this is just definitely a playtest, and there's a lot of good rules here that can be changed or reworded or something like that. But I don't think there's anything here that is particularly annoying or bad. I think it's definitely moving in the right direction. Huge fan of the aspects, but of course the aspects are kind of like distinctions in Cortex, and I have to fight every desire to take Elegy and turn it into like to make a Cortex build out of this whole thing, because absolutely you could, right? Like the edges, those are abilities, right? Like from Cortex. Aspects, that's distinctions. You've got 4 attributes here. Well, there's one of your sets. You've got stress right here, stress tracks. Like it's all there. But I don't want to do that. I want it to be its own thing. I want Elegy to be its own thing, and I'm really enjoying the process of watching it go. All right, enough of me talking. Thanks so much for watching the video. If you have any questions, comments, observations, if you see something that I missed, definitely let me know down in the comments section, and I will try to remember to put a link down there to the store page, which I think will also have a link to the Discord, and you can join us over there. And like I said, it's a pretty active Discord. The creator is active there and always sharing thoughts about upcoming things and interested in feedback and such. And there's a place to share your playthroughs and talk about those as well. So it's all good things. I will try to make sure I link that in the description. But again, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you next time. Have a lovely Halloween season.